The Wes Penra Papers. A Journey Through the Multiverse. The First Level of Learning. http://wespenry.com. Solution Section. Solution Paper Number 4, Understanding Multidimensionality. By Wes Penra, Sunday, August 21, 2011. 1. Moving into a multidimensional reality. Multidimensionality is to know something outside the present moment. The Pleiadians. The good old philosophers, Plato, Socrates, and all the rest throughout our history made the rest of humanity take a leap forward in understanding our reality, because they were thinking outside the box. They were in certain terms multidimensional. The reason they didn't find out even more than they did was because they thought too much. They never totally let go of their logical mind. Logic is there to understand third density, and that's when you have use for it. Just as logic often doesn't help you much when interpret your wildest dreams, it doesn't help you much in a multidimensional reality because they are often one and the same. This new age ahead of us, the age of Aquarius, is the age of multi-D. The self will be able to move in consciousness between many different realities, and the self will be able to bilocate and disappear. It will be able to move into fourth density consciousness, being the perceiver, not the thinker. It's the age when the unconscious mind comes up to surface and the logical mind has dived deep into the unconscious and the twine meet and understand each other. In the new age, the logical mind will no longer be in charge of the body, but become the advisor, and the unconscious mind, the mind that knows, which will no longer be disconnected from the rest of the bio-mind, will become the CEO of the body. Female energy became heavily suppressed during the Anunnaki era with a strong polarity towards the male. This created a huge imbalance in the human psyche, and we have suffered from this imbalance ever since. The male energy is logic and the female energy is emotion. Finally, in this new age, the two shall interact openly and there will be a marriage of consciousness. The two will become one. Therefore, it's important for men to bring forth their female sides and not suppress them, and for women to do the opposite, until a balance is achieved. This doesn't mean that men should be like women and women be like men, but we need to acknowledge the fact that we have both energies within. I very much enjoy to be with females, because I like the energy, and it brings out the female emotional energy in myself. How do we know that we are getting multidimensional? First of all, we already are multi-D, but have forgotten how to access realities outside 3D. So the correct question would be, how do we recall being multi-D? It is different for different people. For most it comes very subtly, while for others it hits like a rock. In the latter case, you could sit in a room and all of a sudden you find yourself sitting in another room, and you have no idea how you got there. Impossible? Not at all. The subquantum physicist, Dr. Borden of Life Physics Group California, LPGC, has a female friend who can disappear before his eyes in the middle of a conversation and then come back. Even he find that kind of creepy, but he is not surprised, because it can be explained with advanced life physics. For most people, on the other hand, it will be more subtle. Here are a few random examples. You may be sitting in a waiting room, or a room you haven't been in before or very often, and you see something in that room which will trigger something inside of you. All of a sudden you find yourself being somewhere else inside your mind, in another time and place, and it's very real. You will get clear images of a simultaneous identity of yours, existing at the same time you do. When you wake up you may be slightly confused, but the feeling is empowering and you want to do it again. You will be able to connect with other aspects of yourself who are non-physical, seemingly living in space on other planets in another dimension or density, and you will start realizing that these entities are all you as well, all living simultaneously. You will find yourself in communication with your spirit guides, or your higher self, whom will guide you and help you achieve your purposes and goals. You may call this your oversoul, although there are many oversouls in the hierarchy of the multiverse. All of a sudden you may find yourself thinking deeply about your ancestors. It may be your dead mother, father, brother, sister, or even dear friends and family members who are now on the other side. This is a sign that they are trying to communicate with you and the portal is opening between the physical and non-physical realms. Embrace such connections, because the people on the other side who meant something to you are eager to assist you from where they are now. It's very possible to communicate with them telepathically. I would encourage you to do so. Speaking of telepathy, this will be the language of the future, and part of being multidimensional. Have you ever had this experience where you think about something out of the blue and the person you're talking to is saying the almost exact words a few seconds later? If so, you just experienced a moment of multi-D. This will become more and more common. Or have you caught yourself thinking about somebody and a second later the phone rings and the person is on the phone, you were not expecting the person to call at that moment? Still, we are already being able to communicate telepathically, we do it all the time, but we don't recognize it. We read each other's thoughts, but have a tendency to either think the thoughts are our own, or we are puzzled as of where they come from. In fact, they are often somebody else's thoughts. More so than ever before, I am meeting people who, myself included, see certain numbers repeat themselves in their lives. It could be 111, 1111, 1212, 444, 711, 911, 333, or a random number, such as 35 repeating itself ever so often. This is another sign that the multiverse is communicating to you. It's your higher self getting your attention and at the same time showing you that you are aware and awake and ready to move on to what is next. Your higher self is looking for a two-way communication. When this happens, say out loud, or inside yourself, "Hello. Who are you? Please show me what you want, I am willing to learn." 1.1 Body/Mind/Spirit. What exactly are they? We are all living several lifetimes simultaneously, some are on this planet and some are off-worldly. Although they are all different personalities, and even look totally different, they are all you. These beings may be humanoid, reptilians, insectoids, and whatnot, in a huge mix. You may live lives in all those shapes and forms simultaneously, unaware of each other. All this is perfectly normal and a part of being multidimensional. For the sake of keeping it simple, let's stay on this planet for a while. To understand multi-D, we first need to understand the basic of soul/spirit/mind/body. This is probably one of the most confusing subjects for mankind. It's gone so far that the words have almost lost their meaning. So let's see if we can get back to basics. Body. This is the vehicle we use in the lower densities to connect with the multiverse. It's the key to connect, and without it we couldn't. We connect via our DNA, which is currently evolving and redeveloping after have been tampered with, approximately 250,000 plus years ago. When our DNA is not activated, we are using our body for basic things, such as transportation, eating, working, sleeping, having sex, other pleasure, communication, etc. When the DNA starts its 12 helices reactivation process, we are finding out that the body is divine, has endless capabilities, and is our most precious tool for evolving in this multiverse at this point in time. The body has the memories of the history of the universe within it. The mind. Simply speaking, the mind is mainly composed of two things, a. the genetic mind, and 2. the spirit mind. The genetic mind is the memories of the bloodline. You inherit your parents' memories on a cellular level, and those of your grandparents, great-grandparents, and your ancestors along the lines of time. These memories are accessible to the soul. The spirit mind is that of the spirit. When you die, you carry with you all the memories and experiences from your lifetime, and all those memories you were using from the genetic mind along the lines of time, memories you pulled up to serve you in your lifetime to help you grow. You were probably not aware of that you were doing this. When a genetic memory comes up to serve you, you just use it like it was the most natural thing in the world, which it is, and you're not even aware of that you're doing it. The spirit mind is the accumulated experiences from all lifetimes you have had, on this planet and on others. Because all lives are simultaneous, all information is already there, although all these beings walking around on the planet are still experiencing their thing. This is something our 3D minds have a hard time wrapping our heads around intellectually, because if there is only one big present, and all knowledge is already gained, how come we are still struggling with finding out things? It's because the now is constantly changing. Now is now. No, now is now. No, it's not, now is now. Everything is always a now in the multiverse. On a sub-quantum level we are in connection with all that is, which in this example means every living entity, animal and plant etc., in the whole multiverse. Fortunately, at this point in our development, most of these memories are inaccessible to us, or we would go insane from being overwhelmed. And it so happened that linear time was invented as a new experience. We created a past, a present, and a future to have random and more spontaneous experiences so that the Prime Creator could learn more about itself. This is the big experience, and the off-world beings monitoring our world are very excited right now when all these experiences in form of timelines come together. It is like taking an enormous number of experiences, separated from each other, and gather them all together and then sharing them with the multiverse and Prime Creator as one big experience. This is what is happening now. When you die and go to sitter space, or the between lives area, blah, you review your previous life to see if you achieved your goals or not. There you realize what the difference is between genetic and spirit mind, because they both follow you after death as memories and experience. All the experiences you had go into a pool, or the memory of the soul/spirit, same thing, and add to the overall experience of you, the spirit, or the oversoul. After have stayed in the blah for some time, time is experienced differently there, not the same as on Earth, and decided what you need to learn for your next experience, you incarnate again on Earth into linear time. You decide carefully which bloodline you want to incarnate into to be able to have an experience as close to what you're intending, and you bring some of your previous genetic and soul memories with you to support you to reach your goals. The rest stays with the soul in the afterlife, if it's not necessary for your growth in the next lifetime, but is still accessible throughout that lifetime if you open up a communicating with the soul, who carries all the experiences you've ever had throughout all lifetimes, on Earth or elsewhere. The reason we don't bring all oversoul memories with us is because it would be too overwhelming in 3D, and it would distract us from experience what we have intended to learn within a certain lifetime. Hence, our memories are limited while on Earth. The personality. The personality is not you, it's not your soul/spirit. Your certain personality is something you have for one lifetime only. It's the combination of the soul fragment you use to incarnate into a particular lifetime and that of the genetic mind. So it's a combination of the spirit mind and the genetic mind. It's more based on genetics than it is on the soul, though. If you want to experience a lifetime as a successful warrior, you make sure you get born into a bloodline which somewhere along the lines of linear time, on the genetic side, had successful warriors in it, or otherwise can support your growth in that direction, and you make sure the astrological aspects are correct when you get born. You may perhaps want to be born in the sign of Aries, which is a warrior sign, more about this later. Your mother and your father are usually of your soul group and there to support you, and they incarnate before you, from a linear time perspective, simultaneously from a multidimensional perspective, and know intuitively when to get pregnant and what to name you. Names have meanings. The spirit mind, or the soul fragment, is there to support the genetic mind and forms the personality together with it. In another lifetime, you feel you want to be a healer to counter your warrior lifetimes, so you choose the appropriate genetic line for that purpose, make sure the astrological aspects are correct, and incarnate. Your personality in that lifetime will be entirely different from that of your warrior self. The Oversoul. The Oversoul is the real you on a higher level. It's the accumulation of all your experiences into one big database. The Oversoul has its own Oversoul, which is the Sunday. Every human being on this planet has its own Oversoul, which is then connected to the Earth, which is the Oversoul for the whole humanity. The Sun, after that, is the Oversoul for the whole solar system. In the RA material, http://laophone.info, oversouls are called logos. The oversoul is truly multidimensional in all the senses of the word. The earth is a host, a living being, a child of the sun, whose purpose is to host life that is seeded onto it. The ancients knew all this and hence worshipped the earth and the sun. Although we shouldn't worship anything, the humility our ancients felt expressed itself in worship. What we could do instead is to communicate with the sun, because she knows who you are, and will communicate back. The sun, all the experiences from this solar system, has its own oversoul, which is a central sun that she is orbiting, which is the pole star Sirius, while others actually say it's Arcturus, and our galactic oversoul is the central sun in the galactic center. Then it continues with galaxies orbiting other galaxies, with their own oversouls etc., in an ascending order. This way, all information and all memories are forever stored for the Prime Creator to absorb. It's a vast concept. So when you die and go through the tunnel towards the light, you are basically returning to yourself, the oversoul. That's where you recover between lives, it's the negative space, by some called antimatter. The soul fragment. When you incarnate into a bloodline, you, the oversoul, is sending out a soul fragment, or a part of itself, to have the experience. Think of the oversoul as a huge baseball and the soul fragment as a ping-pong ball. Then imagine this ping-pong ball being connected with the basketball through a long stick. Then picture thousands and thousands of ping-pong balls being attached to the basketball, and you get a simplistic picture of this process. After body death, the soul fragment returns to the oversoul to report in. The soul fragment, which is in charge of the body throughout the lifetime and oversees the progress, and which is what many call the soul, attaching to a baby before birth, then from a third density awareness and a linear time thinking, is ready to experience another lifetime on earth. Each soul fragment, together with the spirit mind and the genetic mind, make the full experience. It appears that over a lifetime, we move forward in time, equivalent to how many years we live, but the experience and the memories are stored in what could be perceived as vertical time. Linear time is just the movement in space and time, while vertical time is where the full experience and the memories are gathered and sucked up by, or connected with, the oversoul, and then with its own oversoul and so on, in an ever-expanding multiverse. We are creating the multiverse as we go along, we expand it through experience. Multidimensionality is befuddling to the consciousness mind of today. We are not like our ancestors, who were used to thinking multidimensional. We are so costumed at thinking linear that multidimensional thinking has become very foreign to us. Here is a multidimensional concept that a little kid I believe would have much easier to grasp than a linear trained adult. Let's say that one of the pyramids were built 25,000 BC. However, it could also have been built 100,000 BC, the same pyramid just appeared simultaneously in both times. What I am saying is that many of the mysterious structures we see the remnants of around the planet were not always built in one time, these structures are multidimensional. And another thing to realize is that if the structures are big or huge, in our terms, they were not built by little people, so to speak. These structures were built in simultaneous time and then inserted into our linear time through vertical time. Try to get your linear thinking around this, it's quite hard. Still, things like this happens, and we are not supposed to get our heads wrapped around it. We won't understand how this works until we let the conscious mind mingle with the unconscious mind, which is multidimensional, and let the two work together. Another typical example is the dream state, 4 cycles/sec or less, the realm of the unconscious mind. When you dream, anything is possible. One moment you are walking down the road with your friends, and now you are dreaming, and all of a sudden you are in the jungle, chasing butterflies. Next thing you know you are in deep space with your mother. In dream state this is normal and you don't think twice about it, it was just a dream. Now, have you ever been in a dream, suddenly thinking, oh, I'm just dreaming, and then perhaps even been able to change a few things in the dream? If you have, you experienced a moment of multi-D, when the conscious mind meets the subconscious mind. To change things in dream state is something we all can practice. If we are able to do this on quite a regular basis, we have developed a shortcut to becoming multi-D. We have a tendency to, when we wake up from a dream, think that oh, that was just a dream and now I'm awake. However, the dream state is just as real as when we're awake, it's just that when we are considering ourselves awake we focus on this reality and agree that this is what is real. I am not saying that we should all go to bed and dream and never wake up again, but what I am saying is that we need to first go visit the unconscious mind in dream state and say hello, and maybe participate in the dream, take that experience up to this reality and then invite the unconscious mind to come visit us for a change. When it does, we will notice that anything in this reality becomes possible all of a sudden. We can change things around and travel wherever we want in the multiverse like it was nothing. Albeit, it will take a while before we are all able to do this, and to be fair, we need some more of our DNA reactivated first, but we would gain a lot from starting to practice already now. Even if we are not going to be able to do it consciously in this reality quite yet, but we will experience tidbits of it now and then if we are receptive. This will be commonplace in the near future for those who choose to live on the new Earth. This is a great challenge. We have been so costumed to think in linear time, that if someone comes in and says things could actually be in a different way, the conscious mind says, no, that's not possible. Prove it. And then it shuts down, instead of thinking, ah, this is a new concept for me, and it doesn't make sense from the way I have learned to view reality, but what about it? I have an open mind about it. Perhaps, if it's true, the answers will come to me. There are two key words here, open mind. That means opening the closed doors in the different departments of the mind and let what's in there come out and mingle with the little tiny conscious mind. In comparison, the little tiny bit of mind that we here on Earth use to be able to survive and continue building our 3D reality. The conscious mind is such a small fragment of the whole mind put together that it can be compared to the ping-pong ball in comparison with the basketball. If we let the minds incrementally blend more together, we have something we can compare with the mind's oversoul. The mind becomes one and we are able to use our whole brain capacity to create in the multiverse. Unfortunately, and this is not real to people in general, those who are highly educated and have gone through the university and are highly trained, are more often than not the ones who are the most closed-minded. They are so overtrained in thinking linear and that this reality is all there is, that it is often next to impossible to even have a conversation about these things with people in that category. But as always, there are exceptions. Take our children as examples. When they are babies and after a few months start to develop their personality, they are immediately trained by their parents to think linear. They are programmed at an early age to shut down their unconscious mind and only use the conscious mind to navigate. This is something we need to change. Little children are very psychic and quite multidimensional. They can easily feel the energies of a person and start crying if the person who wants to hold him/her is in a bad mood that day, or has something else going on inside themselves at that moment that frightens the baby because it's foreign to him/her. In November 2010, I became a grandfather. While I worked on wrapping my head around that, I thought, weird, I'm not that old. But when I had come to terms with it, the little baby and I immediately found each other on a spiritual level. I adore him, and he loves me and always gives me this big sunshine smile as soon as he sees me, and wants me to pick him up. Knowing what I know about multidimensionality and different realities, I decided that when I am babysitting, I am going to do my best to preserve the multidimensional thinking in this baby, and I'm going to start early. We bought him a toy he could sit in, which looks like a carousel, and the baby sits in the middle and can rotate the whole thing in front of him. The revolving part is packed with different creatures, some are making sounds, others jump up and down when he plays with them. So I decided that this is a spaceship and the baby is the captain. I also have a little ball which sparkles in all different colors when you bounce it on the floor. I activate the ball and put it in a cavity somewhere on the spaceship. This is the magic crystal, the key which makes the spaceship fly. I explain this to him, although he consciously doesn't understand it yet, but then we'll fly together to other stars and planets, and I explain what is happening, and he is in charge. He absolutely loves it, and on an unconscious level, he knows what we're doing. Another time we were at a restaurant and the baby picked up a straw and started investigating it, curiously. I asked if I could borrow it, and when I did, I told him it's a magic wand and started blowing air on him. First he acted surprised and a little confused. I continued explaining that this was a magic wand and continued blowing softly on him. He started laughing and became very interested in the straw. He finally figured it out and we had a lot of fun with that. Things like this I believe are very healthy for our little kids, because instead of putting them in a rigid structure of thinking, telling them that there is only one reality, and that is the one we can see, hear, smell, taste and feel with your body, we can show them that there are many different realities, and they already know this. Let's keep that part alive in them. Please don't let them be like us. We are around 7 billion people on the planet today, and all these people are moving energy. We are metaphorically moving out of our old house and into a new, which is very different from the one we left. Humanity, as a collective, is moving energy towards a new paradigm. Not everyone is willing to move, but that was not their purpose anyway. We are all where we should be at each and every moment, and nothing is random in that sense. Different people need to learn different things. Yes, we are going to see people lose their houses, lose their spouses, the divorce statistics will soar when couples grow out of each other, many will get sick and die, while others will go insane and perhaps even commit suicide. Many traumatic things will happen to people within the next few years, and it's already happening, but even if it looks unfair and horrible, remember that the people it happens to are just where they are supposed to be. On a higher level, they learn something big. This doesn't mean we should shut down our feeling centers and not care. We will feel compassion and sadness, maybe even anger and hopelessness, and it's perfectly normal. I just want you to remember to look at this from a higher perspective, and hopefully it will give you some comfort when bad things seem to happen to good people. In the process of becoming multidimensional, and with everything that goes with it on a physical and metaphysical level, we need to be prepared. Stay in the present, be grounded, and become like a stable rock in the middle of a raging river of energy. Be aware of what you think, because now when time is passing by in the blink of an eye your thoughts will be very important, because they will form your reality more easily than ever before. So if you find that things are not working in your favor, recognize what it is you are thinking and projecting, because within this lies the answer. Change your thinking so that it aligns with your purposes and take necessary actions to reach your goals. If you become a stable rock in this raging river, from that position you can do anything. Don't let the bad news from the outside world get to you. Realize that these events that you see or hear about are someone else's experience, it's not yours. Acknowledge that it is happening out there, in other local universes, give some good energy in that direction if you wish, and then continue concentrating on your own growth. This is not service to self, but your greatest contribution to humanity. Your own growth is what is making a difference in the world, because every little spark of light in the darkness will quickly multiply and bring a new dawn for humanity. This is how you can contribute. This is how we all can win. 2. Messages and mass agreements in Dreamland. I want to spend a little more time on the waking state, beta state, and the dream state, theta state. The waking state is the conscious mind, which is 13 to 30 cycles/sec, while dream state is the unconscious mind living out, 4 cycles/sec or less. So when you go from the waking state to the dream state, your brainwave cycles slow down. When you wake up and are ready to go, your brainwave cycles are much faster. Dreams, like we discussed earlier, is a vista into multidimensional reality. If you think of any dreams you've had, that's a taste of how multidimensional reality works. Only difference is that in multi-D you are not helpless, like you often are in dreams. As a multidimensional being you are in charge of your reality and can change it accordingly. You will find that reality is fluid, just like in the theta and delta states, and much easier to maneuver. Dreams are not based on linear time at all, as you may have noticed, you move comfortably between realities and different presents. It may look like you're in some kind of linear sequence when you dream, you are walking down the street, going into a store, etc., but other realities peek in. There are suddenly lions running down the street, a caveman from ancient times walks through the store and eats the food, and so on. Many dreams happen at once, and this is an important thing to understand. Spiritual components can come into a dream. Dreams can overlap and overlay each other. In theta state you are the closest to spirit guides, who can come in the form of humans, animals, aliens, or basically any shape and form. They can also come in the form of dead relatives and friends. Have you ever dreamed about your dead parent, or grandparent? When my maternal grandmother died, I was 18 years old, and I was at home while she was at the hospital. I woke up, gasping for air at the same moment she died. I sat up in my bed, catching my breath, knowing instantly she was dead. The time matched perfectly, I found out later. In other words, my grandmother told me in dream state that she had just exited. I kept dreaming about her a few times after that, and from had been my grandma, she now had become my ancestral spirit guide. Your main spirit guides are often another, more evolved version of you, but soul fragments of your ancestors, friends, and relatives can also enter the basketball, see diagram 1a above, to give you guidance and to observe what you as a soul fragment is experiencing and how you progress. All of these beings can work with you to test your spiritual savvy in dream state. Pleiadian Lecture, December 4th to 5th, 2010, Bursts of Acceleration, CD number 1, Track 9. These teachings are significantly different than the teachings from your spirit guides in the waking world. The trick is to be in charge of your theta state as much as possible. Just like in beta state, when you go into the bathroom and turn on the shower, you are not standing there, wondering if the water is going to come down through the shower head every time you jump into the shower. You take it for granted, and there are no worries around it. You normally don't lie in bed, thinking that now I'm getting up to take a shower, I wonder if the water will come on when I turn the knob. You can train yourself to do the same in dream state. Before you fall asleep at night, you say to yourself, "Tonight I intend to resolve the following in dream state, and when I wake up in the morning I will have the perfect solution." Or, "I intend to participate in my dreams tonight, I will know I'm dreaming and intend to be able to steer the dreams wherever I want and be in charge of the outcome." Make sure you think these thoughts with clear, pure intention, and don't let fear or doubt cloud your decisions. If they do, it cancels everything, and you won't be able to accomplish much, or anything, of what you sought out to do. Throughout this series of papers we have talked about service to self versus service to others, and I have intended to clear up some confusion on this subject, because I know the confusion is there. We have talked about that each one of us is on our own, personal path, and we all have our own learning curve. No God, spirit guide, or universe minds how long a person takes to learn, it's up to them. We need to understand that everything a person does, it's a contribution and should be honored in its own, specific way. If someone goes out and kills people in the street, that wouldn't be something I would support in any shape and form, but in its own way, even an evil act like that has a meaning and includes a learning lesson, not only for the killer, who is on such a low awareness level that he/she is still learning to be a human, but for the victims and their relatives and friends. It's a dark lesson, indeed, but still a lesson that was needed in that particular time, no matter how traumatic. It's never random, there are no coincidences in an incident as I just described. Someone broke into your car? Same thing. There's a learning lesson both for the burglar and for you. Let's say you have a friend who has been a relative to a victim of such a horrendous crime as a shooting, and you really want to help her. You can of course sit and comfort her and listen to what she needs to get off her chest, which is an excellent way of being service to others, and you can even give some advice if called for, but the best help you can be is to heal the situation in dream state. Again, you follow the same guidelines as I mentioned 2 paragraphs above, you just rephrase your intention. Tonight, in dream state, I intend to help name, to heal from the trauma of the recent traumatic incident she was subjected to, and I intend her to absorb my healing energies and dissolve the imprint of this traumatic incident so that she can find the way to fully recover from it. Then you repeat this phrase every night until you notice your friend is getting better. It's a very powerful way of helping or yourself, to heal. So the key here is to trust your own abilities to resolve things in dream state and then go to sleep in a quiet room, comfortable, safe, and warm. Sometimes, you will be waking up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, or just to almost immediately go back to sleep again. This happens especially when you are doing deep work in your sleep. Look for fragments of the dream, and perhaps write down not more than 3 to 5 words and then go back to sleep. Your inner guide is telling you that something is being worked on. This is why you are waking up. Generally, when you're working on things like this, you're not always going to remember your dreams, but what will happen is that the different layers of your mind will become more integrated and aware of each other, and this is part of becoming multidimensional. We all have to be patient and trust that this will happen incrementally. Keep yourself fluid, and this goes both for your thinking and for your body. Make sure you're not dehydrated. Drink a lot of fluids which are not dehydrating you, so that your body has a sufficient amount of water. Alcohol, tea, and coffee will dehydrate you in big quantities. Studies show that it's alarmingly common for Americans in particular to be dehydrated. So think about these things, and the transition will be easier and faster. It's in theta state where mass agreements are made. It is here we agree, or disagree, to mass events that are happening. Mass events are here defined as events happening to the masses, not to one, or a few people. The unconscious mind is a very powerful part of the mind, the most powerful of it all. This is also the part of your mind you are entering when you are in deep meditation. Here is where you test things out and can vote yes or no to a certain reality, or mass event. As we become more multi-D, we notice that the unconscious mind is growing even more in power. I notice during the day, in my waking state, how the unconscious mind is entering beta state more and more often, and the two integrate. It's not that it is making me sleepy, but I automatically get into a meditated state, which not only calm my mind and body down, but also make me connect to other realities while I do my normal job, and without negatively interfering with my performance. It's a very desirable state to be in, and I have learned to understand the fluidity of realities firsthand. Are you starting to understand why it's so important to slow down your pace in this fast-paced environment that we live in today? Moving quickly, never stopping, constantly multitasking is inhibiting us from connecting with the slower vibrations of the theta state and keep us disconnected from your unconscious mind and the multiverse. The powers that be, who are creating this fast-paced environment have a great knowledge into these things. So consider taking my advice that when things are speeding up, you need to slow down. I think I dare say that everybody has experienced a merge of beta state and the unconscious minds. It occurs when you are just about to fall asleep and you start dreaming while you are still in the wakening world. The two blend together, and it's hard to know which is real and which is not. More accurately put, they are both real. None is more real than the other, and if you think about it, it's not that hard to grasp. If you are between waking state and dreamland and for a few moments can't tell which is which, how can you be sure which one is more real than the other? You can't, because they are both just as real, or unreal, however you want to picture it. As a matter of fact, you first create realities in dreaming, and then you transfer them to the physical world, without being aware of that this is what is happening. So, in other words, it's the inner world that is building the outer experience. Play with it, have fun with it, until you can fully integrate and access the different levels of your mind at will. This is the goal and won't happen overnight, pun intended, but the more we practice, the better at it we will be. 3. Spirit Guides. Let's talk a little bit more about this too, because I know people are interested in this subject, and it is an important one. There is a tremendous amount of help and support for us on the other side, and this needs to be acknowledged. We need to put things into motion and be more aware of what is going on in the non-physical realm. This, too, is part of being multi-D. Despite if the blood is controlled by negative forces or not, it's a rest place for us, and for most people a very pleasant one, and we need to remember this so no fear is connected with the afterlife. We all have guides, and many of us work with them. However, the guides give us advice, and then we don't listen to them. In certain terms, this is a good thing, because there are so many entities out there in the non-physical who are trying to play tricks with us. We want to make sure we are in communication with the correct supporting entities, or our higher self, the oversoul or deceased friends and relatives from our soul group. The important message here is to hold our own space and not become puppets to some invisible entity who is controlling your life and your decisions. Here is where sovereignty comes into the picture. If someone from the astral is telling you to do something out of the blue, don't just go ahead and do it because you have guidance. Guidance can be both supportive and destructive, and if we can't distinguish between the two, we are in trouble. Our spirit guides are often future versions of ourselves, who have more experience and knowledge than we do in our current incarnation. First of all, we need to address our true spirit guides with the following message: if you are to advise me or help me, I want this assistance to be in my absolute best interest, with the intention to lead me exactly to where I need be, and if I follow your advice, it's because the intention behind it is to support my growth in the best way possible. I am not available for any other kind of interference with my life and my sovereignty as a spiritual being in a mind/body. This is telling the non-physicals exactly what you are available for or not. No one can interfere without your agreement, but some are very slick and will attempt to get your agreement without your realizing it. So, once you've called up your guides and start working with them, you can also test them. And moreover, you don't have to follow what they say. Always remember that you are in charge, and the guides are there to support you if you call for assistance. Now, let's say they gave you good advice and you didn't follow it, and later you recognize this is the case. Then, tell the guides they did give you good advice, you noticed it and didn't follow it. Thank them for it, show gratitude. Then, the next time, let's see what happens, and the next time. Do these guides often seem to give you good advice? If so, maybe they are actually working in your favor, and their advice can be taken seriously. But don't be afraid to test them, they know what's out there, and they appreciate that you're not gullible enough to fall for any entities who might say they are your guides, but will lead you astray. I will add here, too, that even when you are connecting with guides whom have your best interests in mind, they are not always giving you good advice. They are not perfect either, nor are they all-knowing. In other words, you need to be in charge and make the decisions you may believe are in your best interest when you feel they are right in spite of advice you get. Sometimes, when you go against the suggestions from the guides, you will find you were correct, other times not. Another way to check the validity of whom you are in contact with is to use your body as a detector. You make an agreement with your body to give a signal one way or the other. Tell your body to respond in a certain way if the energies coming your way are not in your favor, and respond in a different way if they are. With time, it's up to us to develop such a fine-tuned intuition that we become our own guides. When a situation is at hand, we want to learn how to intuitively know how to handle it, and when there's a fork in the road, we will know which way to go. The guides are only important as long as we need them. Once we don't, they will be happy to see that now we are adults and can make our own decisions based on intuition. They will be proud. However, don't rush this process, and don't feel you're less because you need spirit guides. It'll take time before any of us can stand on our feet well enough to be able to do totally without them. For most people, the step right now is not to manage without them, but to make contact with them. If you only knew how many helpful guides are out there, doing their best to catch our attention, and we don't respond, because we either don't believe in them, or have no attention on them. So, everything has its time. How do you call them up, then? You simply say, "Hello, spirit guides. I want advice, but only from those of you who have my best interests in mind. They will respond, and it's up to you to recognize it and start working with them. Ask them for signs that they are there. The trick here is repetition. By repeating our wishes, we will manifest what we want. With some training, you can become so fluidly connected to non-physical energy that your nervous system reaches outside of your body and is part of something much larger, and the nerves carry the information in the non-physical into physical, and you feel the truth of what you've been guided to do. Pleiadian Lecture, August 13th to 14th, 2010, Awakening to the Sun, CD number 1, Track 4. Humanity, at this time, is like a feast of energy. We are like huge magnets to both good non-physical entities and not-so-good beings. They all come now and invite themselves to the party. Many are benevolent and willing to help us in ways they can without inflicting on our free will, while others just see a feast of energy and want to absorb it all. We can call them non-physical vampires. You find this kind amongst the living too, and such people are always possessed. However, when you have reached a point where you have discarded your limited thinking and have raised above the crowd in consciousness, you will automatically attract beings who are there to guide you up to higher awareness. Recognize them, because they are there and would love to be noticed. Still, as a heads up, remember Star Wars, the movies? They talked about the Force. It could be used for good and bad. It was right on. These dark forces are of course out there, too. As we raise above those frequencies, we may not ever be severely affected by them, but our rise in consciousness do attract them, too. Instead of coming for us, they can't feed off our fear, because we don't have it anymore. They come for the societies of Earth and they infiltrate them. This is why the ET agenda is so incredibly complicated. There is very little chance that any human can gather enough intelligence on these beings to get a full picture of what's going on. There are beings we have never, ever heard of whom are infiltrating some government somewhere. The Anunnaki, Greys, and some reptilians are the main infiltrators, fighting over dominance, but there are a whole lot of others who are playing out different kinds of imperatives. It's too complex, and fortunately we don't need to know it all. It's enough that we know who's the key players are, and their imperatives. I am doing intelligence gathering on these and will post later in the exopolitics papers. We are not here to fight ETS, or to take sides, we are here to raise our consciousness. If it's unclear to you how you can raise your consciousness above the frequency fence we're stuck in, picture yourself floating in the higher levels of the atmosphere, looking down at Earth. You are there alone, or with others who are of the same frequency, and you see all the turmoil deep down there. Dark forces fighting each other, bombs going off, raging energies clashing into each other, government officials being bribed and manipulated, raging terror, cloning, people rioting. That's a good picture of how it works. Your body is still on Earth, physically speaking, but metaphysically you are not part of the drama. It's unfolding before your eyes, somewhere else. You can watch it play out, but you don't have to. You can go on with your business on this higher frequency while the struggle is happening, seemingly elsewhere. In a higher sense, it doesn't, of course. Everything is there simultaneously in the same space, but if you vibrate differently than those involved in the drama, you are not going to be part of it. Picture yourself in a movie, on a battlefield. Everything is chaos, death, and terror, and the noise is extremely loud when bombs are going off, machine guns, hand grenades exploding. Then all of a sudden all this noise is fading and disappearing into the background, and finally everything gets quiet. You are still there, but the experience of the war that was raging is dissolving. Then, everything is peaceful, the war moved elsewhere and you're no longer participating, it's not even in your reality anymore. This is how we create our new Earth. Some of the readers may already to some degree experience this. The dramas here on Earth have become something undetached from your psyche, something that happens over there, but you no longer feel connected to any of it. It's like it's happening in another world. If so, congratulations! You are on your way helping to create our new future, our new Earth.